Welcome to the Bearcat Beat on LSPN, where each week we share conversations about everything that makes Sherman ISD athletics so great. I'm your host, Chris Daly. Sherman Bearcat Athletics represent the heart and soul of our community, where champions are made both on the field and in the classroom. Our student athletes embody the Bearcat spirit through dedication, perseverance, and excellence, creating memories and building character that will last a lifetime. Remember, it's better to be a Bearcat. This is just one of the many amazing things that the Booster Club accomplishes throughout the year for all sports. If you're interested in joining the Sherman Athletic Booster Club, or if you want to purchase some merchandise to show your Sherman Bearcat love, you can visit the website at shermanisd.net under the Athletics tab. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Bearcat Beat. I'm Chris Daly. I am joined once again by powerlifting coach Kenny Wilkerson. How you doing, Coach?
Pretty good. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. I say once again because when we spoke last, we hadn't had regionals yet. We hadn't had state yet. We haven't wrapped up the season. So let's talk about that. What overall grade, before we get into details about athletes, just an overall grade on how the team did.
I'm kind of torn, only because at state we had really high expectations, and we didn't quite get our goals, but we had a great year. So I don't want to diminish that. You know, it was A+ all the way around. It's just, you know, we had big goals, you know, and so when you don't quite reach those, you feel a little disappointed. But at the end of the day, like, we had a tremendous season and did something that Bearcats have never done. Won regionals as a team for the boys. The girls repeated as back-to-back regional champions. You know, we sent 10 boys to the state powerlifting meet, and that's almost unheard of. You know, most schools send one, maybe two. Girl-wise, we sent 8 again. And, I mean, we ended up with 4 state medalists for the year. It was a great season. So I've got to go to say A+.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, no matter what you say, there's 1,000 other teams around the state that would have loved your outcome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about the individuals. Who did what? You know, first let's talk about the regionals, because that is historic.
It was, yeah. You know, it was amazing because we took 13 kids down there, and so that's more than a full team anyway. There's only 12 on a team, so, you know, and there's only 150 kids there total. And so the fact that, you know, we have almost 10% of the participants was amazing. But, you know, like Dylan Childs, I have to kind of highlight him to begin with. He's a junior. He was in the 132-pound weight class, but he had, you know, he was regional champion, but he had the best squat of the day. He had the best overall total. He ended up being best overall lifter of the meet, you know, at 132 pounds. And then Abram Ramirez, he's a, you know, 4-year powerlifter for me, a three-year state qualifier. And he was a regional champion with a total of 1,800 pounds. And so he did amazing. You know, if I look at Isaac Bettino, he was a regional champion in the 181-pound weight class. And Danny Lopez ended up getting, I believe, 3rd place in the 275s and was a state qualifier. And so we had some tremendous individual performances that all came together to give us a great team performance.
Yeah. And now let's segue into that state meet and tell me what went well and where do you think you could have went better?
Well, you know, as far as what went well is we took 10 people down there, right?
Yeah.
And so many of them hit PRs, you know, their personal records. And, you know, like Jalen Walker went down there and had his best squat and his best bench he's ever had, right? And his best total. Clay Booth went down there, has the best bench he's ever had before, right? You know, Dylan didn't quite perform the way he wanted to, and just getting a state medal by 5 pounds, you know? Yeah, Abram went into the state as number 1, but then some other kids just had tremendous days, and Abram went 4 of 9 and didn't quite have the day that he had before. Otherwise, he would have walked away a state champ. And so, you know, Isaac was in a battle to the very end for a state championship, and Danny was in this battle for a state medal until the very last event. And so I think maybe focus, you know, is kind of a big stage too. You know, you're in this big arena, there's 12 racks around you. And for the people who've never been there before, you know, it's tough to stay focused for, you know, 6 hours of lifting.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about the senior class, who you're going to be losing.
Oh my gosh. Well, so can I talk about the girls first real quick?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please do. Yeah,
Yeah. So, the girls were regional champions as well,
yeah, yeah.
and so, gosh, we had Ariana Harillo, who was a four-time regional champion and a four-time state qualifier. I believe she's the first girl that Sherman's ever had that's been a four-time state qualifier. And she got fourth place at state this year. She was fifth last year. Her last deadlift came down. She was pulling for second place versus fourth, and she just didn't quite get it.
Hmm.
Paige Phillips was a four-time state or a regional qualifier. She made it back to state this year and got fifth place, and had the best day she's ever had. Tiffany Cabrera was second place at regionals to Paige. She got seventh place in the state. Savannah Bond had amazing day at state. Didn't quite medal, but it was the best day she'd ever had. Well over 900-pound total in the 165s. My daughter Bella, she was a regional champion in the 148s, and was making her second trip to state. And she ended up getting seventh place and won the THS WPA scholarship.
Nice.
So I was a proud dad moment for me.
Yeah, yeah.
We had Ariana Hernandez, who had an amazing day at regionals. It was a regional champion, and then went to state, had a 405-pound squat, which is her personal best by 30 pounds. So overall, it was really good for those girls too. And I couldn't start talking about the seniors until I started talking about the girls.
Sure. No, I'm glad you did. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, let's segue to that.
Well, so senior wise, I'm losing a lot. I'm losing a lot. I was very blessed when I came in here 4 years ago. This freshman class, it was my daughter's class, and so I knew a lot of these kids coming into it. But if I start on the girl side, Ariana Harillo, 4-year lifter, I'm going to miss her tremendously in the 105-pound class. Tiffany Cabrera is her cousin. She's been there every step of the way also. And her Paige, I used to train Paige and Bella in the park during COVID. Couldn't do anything at schools. I was actually working over at Gainesville at the time, but I would take them to Fairview Park and make them push my truck and everything. And so that turned them into powerlifters early. But so I'm going to lose Paige right there. I'm looking to keep going up. Bella, of course, and then Savannah Bond. Those seniors are going to be sorely missed because 4 of them are regional champions. And then 2 of them are regional runners up. And so that's going to be really tough on the girl side. But the bright side with that is Gio Centeno, she's coming back. She's only a sophomore, and she was a regional champion. Her and Alyssa Kane are both, and Ariana Hernandez. All 3 of them are coming back next year. And I had a girl that got third place in the 97s who was a freshman named Avon Daniels. She's going to be killer. And then we have another freshman who got third in the unequipped in the 198s named Grace Sanchez. That, and watch out, whenever she kind of figures it out a little bit, like she's going to be tremendous. And you add that to like other sophomores I have, like Emily Cobb. The cupboard's not bare.
Yeah,
but we do have some work to do, right? To get back and repeat as girls regional champions. On the boys side, Abram Ramirez, I can't say enough about him. And he has this little group of friends, and it's him and Gabriel Rangel and Isaac Patino and Danny Lopez and Eric Coleman and those guys and Jalen Walker. They're going to be sorely missed. I mean, regional champions in the group, regional medalists in the group, state qualifiers. Clay Booth and Aaron Hodges both came over from baseball. And made state, and they reached their goals this year, and so, but they're going to be sorely missed. I think 9 of the 10 that I took to state were seniors.
Wow.
Yeah, but like I said, I've got more coming, but it's hard. It's hard, a little bit harder on the boys side than it is the girls side, just because the boys side is all 5A together, and the girls side is split 5A large and 5A small.
Got it.
So it adds a little bit more opportunity on the girl side. But, boy-wise, we have Austin Miller, Leandre Gooden, Kentrell Neely, Jermaine Neely, Darius Dorsey. He was our very first unequipped state qualifier ever for Sherman.
Nice.
And he's a freshman. So, like I said, the future is bright. We just have a lot of work to do if we want to try to stay in the same position that we're in.
Yeah, definitely. And, if you look at all the other sports, they're already eyeing some middle school, junior high kids. Are you seeing some that are showing some interest?
Some have shown interest and everything. The thing is for me is I really kind of wait till they get to high school just
Yeah,
because
it's
of
a
the way
little tough because of the development is so different.
exactly, and especially like girls are a little more mature than boys when they come in,
Yeah,
and so you kind of boys develop more through that process.
yeah,
Uh, so yes, I have my eye on some kids that I've seen and I've talked to and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, too, all of my kids also do other sports. Like
yeah.
I only had one boy and one girl all year long that didn't play at least one other sport, and a
Hmm.
lot of them, two or three or four. Right, I've got kids that are in three sports and theater or
Hmm.
and band.
That right.
And so all of our kids are doing multiple things. So I have to play that game also. Is like, how do we balance everything?
Yeah,
So it's more for me when they get there. I talk to them, let them know, hey, I'm going to work with everything. Everything's going to be okay if you want to
yeah.
do this, and then give them that opportunity to do it.
Nice. And I assume, because you mentioned this last time we talked, you said, I'm going to help you hit the ball further. I'm going to help you, push that other lineman harder, whatever your role is. So I imagine other coaches are like telling their kids, hey, you need to get into this.
I believe they are. We don't have those conversations a whole lot, but I think that the other thing that helps out too is success breeds success.
Yeah.
And so something I'm really big on with powerlifting is developing that community and the team. Even though it's an individual sport, I want it to be a team where we
Yeah.
support each other, and I think that helps bleed over to other sports. Where we want to support each other, and we take that from powerlifting to volleyball, to track, to
Right.
football, to basketball, to those different things where we understand how to work with each other and help each other out.
I love that. And you mentioned it's a pretty short season as seasons go.
Right.
What does the off season look like for you?
Well, there's typically not much of an off season other than there are other sports off season,
Right,
right?
right.
But so what I've done this year is I have a app that we use that I put workouts on and
Mhm.
everything. I'm just making that available to them throughout the entire year. I'm
Nice.
putting extra workouts on there for them so they can do them either here or they can do them at the local gym. They can do it at their garage, whatever they want to do, right? Just to get them lifting more. That's really what the off season needs to be for me
Mhm.
is getting time under the bar. If you can get under the bar, you're going to get better, because it's a consistency game. It's not something you can just start in November or December and then all of a sudden be at a state level. And
Yeah.
if these younger kids want to reach the level that these older kids have achieved, then they're going to have to understand that it's a year-round process, and it's not done in just a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And what about, the idea that their bodies need to rest at some point? How is that built in?
Well, so if you're old school and you're just throwing it on weight on and you're just trying to push it all the time, then yes, you can break down and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the way that strength conditioning has evolved over the years is we understand that the body has like cycles it needs to go through,
Hmm.
right? And so something I like to do on the workouts, and I like to do it with our strength conditioning workouts as well, is what I call a 3-week wave.
Hmm.
And so we'll tend to go, from a high rep to a low rep
Yeah.
over a period of 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what we have, and then we'll repeat it again, change up some of the exercises. So it's never consistently just hammering like heavy bench press or
Right.
heavy squat. One week it may be front squat, one week it may be sumo deadlift, then conventional deadlift, then snatch grip deadlift. So you vary the exercises, and that's how you can continue to lift at a high level,
Hmm.
and push yourself to gain strength, but without overworking the body and overtraining to that point.
I love it. I love it. Well, Coach Wilkerson, gosh, congratulations on another great season. I mean, Sherman and powerlifting, they go together, right?
We're getting there. We're getting there. So we're trying to get the two together, right?
I
Sherman
love it.
powerlifting. There it is, right?
Right on, right on. And congratulate the Iron Cats for me. I think it's pretty amazing.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Take care. I want to thank you for listening to the Bearcat Beat. Each week throughout the school year, you will hear all sorts of great information about all the athletic programs at Sherman ISD. Please do us a favor, like, share, comment, do whatever you can to help us reach more Bearcat fans.
Hey Coach, Lone Star Gridiron has been the leader in Coach's Show podcasts for 20 years, and now you can get your own Coach's Show podcast each week during the season as a fundraiser for your booster club. Yes, booster clubs all over are using these podcasts to help their sports programs. You get to share the stories of your program and your kids to a huge audience and make money. We started with just football, but this year have expanded to make them available for all sports. Call 713-269-4620 to find out the details and get your Coach's Show started.